and I'll give it a few minutes. I'm sitting by the fire here, just started it up this morning. Hello friends. It may not be morning wherever you are, but as you can see, it's morning where I am. Frosty too. Frosty and chilly this morning. I'm going to talk this morning briefly about the formula, the 8 inches per mile squared. I've only just woken up a short time ago, but I was thinking about it last night, so hopefully I can offer you something coherent, food for thought, and perhaps a conversation starter when discussing with your favorite defender of the status quo. Hope you're well. I hope this reality of ours is treating you fine. Funnily enough, I was saying to Andrea yesterday or the day before that when I was just going along with the world as a blind and deaf believer in authority and information as presented to us, then in some respects I was quite a lot happier than I've been of late. I was the happy guy in the room. I was, I worked for some fairly large organizations. Westminster City Council is one that comes to mind, where, thousands of staff. And I was definitely one of the happy guys. If you walked into City Hall, all the staff at the front, all the security staff, reception staff, whatever, they knew who I was. And I was generally, one of the happy, ebullient types. And all of this squabbling over our reality, all of this darkness of trying to establish the truth of where we are and who we are and what this all is and what is our purpose and all of that has come at quite a heavy cost to my general demeanor. And I want that to change. I'm the author of this life. I'm the creator of this life, and the change is really up to me to make. It's the first look at myself, so I'm going to get to the point shortly. Looks like my fire has started nicely. I want to do a video, actually, or just a short clip. I don't know if you saw the one I did yesterday with the tennis ball and the gas rising from it, and how improbable it is that gases are lifting off from the side of the globe, such as, say, South America. They're lifting off the side of the globe, and they're rising perpendicular to the globe. Gases rise up and hit a ceiling and lay level. So the idea that there's level on the side of the globe, horizontal on the side of a globe, and here and here and here and here and here and here and here. As someone would try and one of the arguments I've heard is that things are flat at the local level. It's all these. It's like pixels of flatness. So it may be a pixel on the globe because the globe is large. The pixel in the reality is hundreds of miles or tens of miles of flatness here and here and here and here. Just like someone has once said to me, "Oh, you know how football is stitched together with flat panels, and eventually it becomes a ball." And the same is true with a computer screen. How it creates a circle. It uses little square pixels to eventually stitch them together like a ball. But gases, really, the gases, they travel upwards, and it doesn't matter where you set the gas off. It's going to rise. It's going to rise against gravity and continue rising until it reaches something that stops it, like a ceiling in your shower, or a ceiling in our reality, and then there it will stop, or it will get to a point at which it settles. But it's not going to do that in some kind of circular fashion. It's just going to go up. I can't sit too close to this fire now. It's getting nice and warm. I'm going to set me up a little. You remember this? This is Alexander's Lego set, which we used on the Globe Light tour bus to set up our camera for the live shows in the evening. I'm going to do something now just to set it up as a little rest, and then I will seek to do my little demo for you. Let's see. That's a bit low. I will come in and have a look at the chat room and say hello in a minute. I just need to set myself up. So I hope you don't mind. I do apologize. I don't want to waste your time. However, I know that with these live things, as I go impromptu live, it does take a little while for folks to get notifications or whatever. Before I get going. I'm doing this job at the moment where I'm stripping the paint off an old door. I'm quite enjoying it, I have to say. It's really nice to have something physical to do. Yesterday, I was using a heat gun. And the bigger one, the one that I used to do the demo that you saw, if you saw the tennis ball demo, I'm using a bigger one than that for the main panels of the door. And then, with a scraper going hell for leather, scrape it back. And truthfully, yesterday was probably the most physicality I've had in months, and I absolutely loved it. I've put on a little bit of weight over the last few months because I've just done so little physical work. My body relished 2017, 2016, 2018, 19. My body relished the physical work, and prior to that, I was mostly office kind of guy, but I'd become that anyway. And so in order to give my body sufficient physical activity, I had a gym membership. It's been about 5 years now since I've had a gym membership, but my body was in pretty brilliant condition, just from being, doing the gardening and the woodworking and, physically carrying pallets around and stuff. If you lived in my neighborhood, you'd have seen me for years, coming. There's a building site over there, or someone's had a delivery of floor tiles or something on a pallet. I'd pick up that pallet, carry it half a mile home or whatever, strip the pallet back down and so on, and all of that physical work. Yeah, had me really fit, such that when I first went to Speaker's Corner in 2018, I felt comfortable enough to take my shirt off and do it. I think I was 49 at the time, and do some stuff with my shirt off, to the extent that Dave Murphy said to me in a comment somewhere along the line, "Do you ever wear a shirt?" Now, yes, I wear a shirt because I'm carrying a little extra heaviness around the gut. It's not very nice to see. I'm going to drop this down ever so slightly. So yeah, I enjoyed very much being the physical guy yesterday. And I was annoyed yesterday by a comment some guy made, actually, now that I think about it. So he set up a fake account, so I assume or a new account. It was a 5-day-old account, and he's come in and said, "You're not the Messiah, you have to go and work, the character that we all know is Jesus. He worked, and he was a carpenter. So, along the way, since 2015, when I started doing carpentry, I was actually pleased with that it was working with my hands, much like the character Jesus exemplified. And the truth is, I love working, and I think that we should all work. We should all have something to do. The sitting around, lying on a sofa, it gets boring after a little while. If you've been working hard for a week or a month or whatever, and you get to lie on a sofa for a little while, you really enjoy it. But if all you do is lie on a sofa, you will turn to soft. And the human body, particularly the male body, needs to be physically active. The sedentary lifestyle that the office offers most men today is bad for your health. So that person couldn't be further from the truth. I think perhaps why he felt the need to say that was because he was commenting on the bit of activism I did in Canterbury, and I was asking for financial assistance from this community, and I am still asking for financial assistance from this community, and I think, just so you're clear, and I've made it clear, my desire or my hope is not to be a guy who all I ever do is pontificate in forums or in this way or in street activism or whatever. It's not that I don't want to be doing I don't want to be doing work. I want to work. I need to work, and I need to feel the satisfaction of, just like in the case of refurbishing this door, that I'm producing something, if you were a gardener, a grower of fruit and vegetables or whatever, and you were producing those things for your family and for your community, then that would be extremely rewarding. But the reality is, at this point in time, I don't have a home. I don't have a place from which to establish either that I'm growing something or that I'm working in my local community. I had to say, where I lived in London, I had to say to all the people that I was gardening for, I won't be around here. It won't be feasible for me to work for you anymore. And all of them said, "Well, that's." I'm really disappointed. Who's going to? It's going to be hard to find someone to do what you do, and I would be happy for people to go and talk to probably not necessarily all my clients, over the years may say the same thing, but certainly most would say, "Dan, this guy works very, very hard. I'm diligent, I'm, honorable, honest, so I think it's for me, if people are feeling that, such that this little person had to set themselves up a fake account to come and tell me that that I needed to go that I need to go and work and so on. Maybe other people are feeling that same thing. So I just wanted to clear the air on that, guys, because I don't want you to feel, and this group of people who are listening to me. Some of you are people who, well, most of you, I suspect. I know there were people who are only listening in so as they can hear me trip up or something. But I think the majority of people who are listening are genuinely looking for good information, or looking for some kind of connection to how they're feeling, to the kind of person they are or they want to be or whatever. And I wouldn't want for people to think that I was wanting to be a loaf about or a layabout. I'm just going to alter this angle slightly. 1 second. I don't want for people to be laboring under the impression that I'm a wastrel. And of course, what I'm encouraging you to be is a productive, useful contributor to your community, and that's what I want to be too. So maybe it was useful to get that off my chest. What I wanted to say as well is that I'll do a video on this, but here, this pile, or this log pile that you can see in the pen here is a basket full of wood, and obviously, excuse me, this is a fire. Yeah, and I have been in this place now for 8 days, I think, and from the first day until today, I have had this fire running permanently. Most mornings I come through and there's still enough heat to restart the fire without using a match, although this morning I used a match. I have refilled this basket half a dozen times with probably well over 100 kilograms or 250 pounds of wood. Inside the fireplace is a pile of ash that I have yet to clear out. But it's just sitting in the bottom there, and I estimate that it weighs well less than a kilo, a couple of pounds at the most. So what we've got 100 odd kilos of wood reduced to a few pounds, if that, of dust or ash. And the result of having burnt it is that we've had heat released from this fire, and most of it's gone up the chimney. And what's gone up the chimney is essentially weightless gas. Again, it'll go up and settle or cool and come back down. But the point is that all of that weight, 100 kilos, has been turned into less than or around 1%, if that, of it as of gas and of dust. And the exchange was simply a gaseous plasma, or a plasmatic exchange from heavy, hard wood to light gas and a remaining sort of dust. If we lived in a material world, it really lived in a material world, it shouldn't be possible to take all of that solidness and just with a plasma exchanger turn it into a weightless, almost weightless remains, the dust that's sitting in the bottom of that fireplace. So I need to kind of think through how I'm going to present this, but really, if you think about it, it's like, well, then how material is our world if all of that apparent solidness can be turned into a plasma or a fire, and then reduced to literally just dust. I'll give that some more thought. Let me say hello. Do some focus quickly. Whoa, there's a lot of comments. Hey, Doc, Michael. You're in Miami. I didn't know that. Miami, Florida was one of the places that I never got to on my 30-state American tour back in 1988. But I wanted to, just the weather and stuff like that. Hey, Ricardo, another American. I'll catch you the Americans this time of the day. I guess you guys are the late night guys. I guess it's quite late there for you. And almost 2 a.m. Yeah, oh, wow. You're okay. You might not be here anymore. He's ready for Z's. All right. Thanks, Martin. Hi. I won't take too long with this. Yep. That's Mason. For what it's worth, in my opinion, all physical matter in most gases are derived from the ground. Therefore, they tend to seek equilibrium towards the ground. This may be a good replacement for gravity. I'll think about that. You see, I think if I may say that it's like, it's not quite like that, because there is solid. We have in our physical reality, we have the 3 or 4 phases of matter, don't we? From solid through to plasma, gas, liquid, and so in our reality, things have their own natural place to be, and the solids tend to be down, and the gases tend to be up, and the liquids tend to be in the middle. I mean, of course, that's not a hard and fast rule. Things get trapped in between different pockets and so on. It's too early in the morning for me to, but that's a good, I'll give that some more thought. Is Maori here? Hey, Maori. You guys having a good conversation here. I'll let me just quickly, I don't want to belabor here. So hey, smash the thumbs up. Yeah, if you don't mind. I'm getting great view counts, so I'm grateful for that. Hi, UK. Good morning. Nice to see you up. Thank you, Ricardo. That's nice. I'm not part of the system that we live in. Well, there's a phrase that Andrew and I have been saying over and over lately, is as be in the world and not of it, and I think I think we're trying to, we're trying to balance that. It's really the hardest. When I was talking about my happiness earlier on, truthfully, I mean, I need the physical work. I came back from my physical day yesterday, and I was like full of beans and jumping for joy in a way, because my body had been, I'd worked up a sweat, and despite the cold and so on. And I think we need that. I think we need the physical, but we need to be able to, and particularly maybe more so men, we need to be able to pay the bills. We need to be able to feed our family. We need to be able to keep a roof over our heads and so on. And I think one of the greatest stresses I've had is the lack of certainty of income. And so actually, there are people who've managed to break away from the system, sure, and may not necessarily need to go out and do a day's work in order to earn the money, let alone the physical side, but in order to earn the money. I think that's the trickiest part, and it's just a note of caution to people is that I'm not, my pal Drew over in New York, he changed he left his job and so on, and then found he had to, go and get another job, and hopefully it's a much happier situation, even though the money may not be the same. But the reality is we have bills to pay, and being unable to buy food or pay for your phone or your car's taxes and so on and so on. That's a head breaker, and I've struggled a lot with that over the last few years. Actually, I really have. Anyway, thanks for saying that. I do appreciate it, pal. Flat chord music. Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, so I wanted to just say that'll do. So this is what I wanted. This is I titled this chat. What is wrong with something's wrong with the 8 inches per mile squared. And I'm not about to do an about turn on the flat Earth, but of course, the water is level. But this is a great opportunity to say to the status quo. I don't want to use the term ballers so much anymore, because I'm trying to move away from that kind of that inbuilt them and us pejorative, or I think that's the right word to use, but that kind of it's borders versus flatties and stuff, and if there's a psyop in all of this, it's about getting us to sit on one side of the fence and throw stones over at the other side, vice versa. And anyway, so the point is that the formula that we've been given, and we all adopted, at 8 inches per mile squared for the first 1,000 miles or so on, is flawed. And it may be fair to say that, it might be correct to say that from a point of an observer, you could look out from a little island, say, and you'd have 8 inches of mile squared drop going on all around you. But you might remember this from yesterday. It's got some Alexander 55 written there. See that? My little boy writing that. Telling you what, this little child of mine is incredibly bright. Incredibly bright. Sorry. I get a little bit emotional when he says to me a few times a day, He says, I want to go home. I want to go home. It's heartbreaking, to be honest, guys. You know, he knows this isn't his home. You know, it's just so, I know it's just so many things that I would like to offer him that I can't. We used to trampoline every single day, you know. We haven't been on a trampoline for 4 months now. I do what I can to try and give him like a, you know, anyway, I'm getting melancholy. Just gonna quickly wipe this down. Okay, so this is the problem. Here's your globe, 8 inches per mile squared. Here's the example that I gave yesterday of a mountain range and sea. I said here we're 1,000 meters up. Can you see that? Guys, I need to do this a little better. I'm sorry. I really do. I really do respect all of you, and I don't. You know, I'm just kind of like a. I did see Nicholas in here earlier on. I should say hello. I'm just like a pretty relaxed kind of guy, you know. So I don't mean to be dismissive about this stuff, but I'm hoping that someone watches this and can, you know, do something more with it. Maybe has a wider reach. We're 1,000 meters. I'm just a little bit emotional at the moment. I feel like, I mean, it's tough on Andrea too, and my older children too, you know, them not having a home to go to this Christmas past and so on. At least we can explain to them more easily. Alexander, we've tried to explain to him, but, you know, I mean, he can't understand. He can't understand it. Anyway. So, 2 observers here. Yeah. One of them is going to walk, this distance here is 100 miles between beaches across this body of land, 100 miles. So we all know that 100 miles has got 6,666 feet of curve. Okay, hope you can see that. But because this person is going to walk 1/3 of the distance, because the distance, and it's not quite as accurate as yesterday's one, but this person walking this way is going to walk 67 miles to the coast. And they will, over the duration of 67 miles, they will descend 1,000 meters, because this is known to be 1,000 meters above sea level. And this is the sea level. This dude walks 67 miles and gets back to sea level, therefore descending 1,000 meters. This dude descends 1,000 meters, but only walks 33 miles to get back to the beach on this side. According to the globe model, there should be 6,666 feet of bending. So this should be, if I was to minimize this 100 miles here, this should be sort of like this little tick of 1,000 meters high on a globe. So as well as having 1,000 meters of height to attend to, because we're on a globe, the difference between here would be this additional 6,666 feet plus the 1,000 meters, apologies. the 1,000 meters, which is what, 3,300 something. So that should be the total amount of curvature experienced by these people. Now, I'm going to get the calculator that I have handy here. I did it yesterday afterwards. So I thought, shit, this is what's wrong with, one of the things that's wrong with the maths as we're given it. Because I think you're probably going to know where I'm going with this. But if, here we go, a little handheld device. So now if this person says, all right, I've got 33 miles to walk back to the beach, and I've got to account for 8 inches per mile squared, so it's 8 inch. Let me start with 33. Yeah. 33 times 33, which is the miles squared, times 8 divided by 12 to get us to feet is 726. So this guy walking this way has got 726 feet of curvature on a globe. Yep. This guy, you know where this is going. This guy walking in the opposite direction has got 67 miles. So 67 times 67 is 4,489 times 8 inches divided by 12 is 2,993 feet. You see the problem? According to the fundamental formula that we all sit on, 6,666 feet is the amount of curvature on a ball over a span of 100 miles. But if two people walk in different directions, this person is going to claim, I've got 2,900 feet to account for because I'm walking 67 miles, and this person is going to go at 700 feet to account for because they're walking 33 miles, because we know with the mile squared thing, it's an exponential growth. So it becomes a more rapid drop-off. But the total here is 72993 plus 726 gives you somewhere in the region of 3,700 feet of curvature. According to these two people, they're going to walk 3,700 feet. But according to living on a globe, they should actually have to walk 6,000 feet, 666 feet in total to account for this curvature. So there's something fundamentally flawed with the mathematics, I should say. And I'll summarize it by saying I suggest that the 8 inches per mile squared isn't steep enough at the point of starting. Because the amount of curvature on a sphere should be always the same. The amount of dropping off should always be the same. So we should be falling far more rapidly over a short distance than we currently allow for, because what do we say? The first 10 miles is 60 feet. Well, I don't know that that's enough, and so I want to, engage in conversation, discussion, debate with people perhaps more mathematically inclined than me to try and work through this conundrum. But I think, Guts, that actually that the 8 inches per mile squared may not be near enough. Because we all say, oh, well, it's getting, from the point of the observer, it's getting sharper and sharper and sharper and sharper with the fall. Well, I'm not sure that that's right. I think it should be if it's a oblate spheroid. I'm not even going to get into that. And we know we have large tracts of flat land where there's absolutely no curvature to be to be seen anywhere. So it does mean that there are areas that in theory should be far more steep to overcome those areas that are just flat sections of this alleged globe. So but the point is that actually the amount of drop, I've got a golf ball here. The amount of globe bending or curvature should be equal. It shouldn't be getting more dramatic. It shouldn't be that the 99th mile is less steep than the 100th mile. Because if you do it, let's just quickly do that as an example. 99 times 99 times 8 divided 12 is 6,534, 6,534 feet, okay? And we all know that the 100th mile is 6,666 feet, so minus 666 is 132 feet. So in other words, from the point of the observer, moving from the 99th mile to the 100th mile has 132 feet of drop-off. Whilst the first, I said that, 132 feet. The first mile from your toes to the next mile along, the next mile, it's only 8 inches. But the 99th mile to the 100th mile has got 132 feet of curvature to it. And that's not working. I don't think I'm being, but by all means, I'm here to hear what people have to say about that. But I think that there's something flawed with the 8 inches per mile squared. And the reason why we may have been fed 8 inches per mile squared is because, not because I think that 132 feet of drop from 1 mile to the next makes little sense. Equally, 8 inches in the first mile may be way less than should be were we living on a ball of 24,000 miles circumference. Because from an ant's perspective or whatever, and they always try and reduce us to gnats and ants and things on a globe. From an ant's perspective, the amount of curvature is always the same. As the ant walks around, it's always on the same amount of curve. Yes, it may be upside down and maybe hanging on because it's clever like that and has very little weight to it and suctions that can keep it stuck on the underside of this ball. But it's always the same amount of curve, no matter what point you start from. Whereas our formula says that the further away you get from me, the more obtuse the angle of drop is, which I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. And I wish this was a conversation that you were you were able to converse with me and offer me verbally some food for thought. But I'm starting to wonder whether some guys who are good with AutoCAD couldn't do something. I know people have said, "Oh, I've done this in AutoCAD and 8 inches works," and so on. But we all say that only works. Well, we do nowadays say that only works for the first few hundred miles, the first 1,000 miles, and so on. And I'm starting to wonder whether within that isn't buried another deception, one in which it doesn't work because actually, if you had to describe the entirety of the entire circumference of this, you would need much more than 8 inches for the first mile, and possibly more than 60 feet for the 10th mile, which means that the Rowbotham, Bedford Levels experiments and so on are disinfo, because they all sort of reinforce the 60 feet at 10 miles, and whereas it could be much more, because it can't be that as I said, at the 99th mile, between the 99th mile and the 100th mile, things are going to drop 130 feet. That doesn't describe a sphere, my friends. That's something that's getting much sharper. And I mean, I'm not, obviously I'm not talking against flat Earth. I'm talking against the maths that's been given to us by the proponents of a heliocentric spherical oblate spheroid model. As I say, I'm certain that water is level. There's no, as we're talking about gases, everything's operating in strata. So I don't have any axe to grind with the idea that this is our reality is we exist inside some kind of layered system. Does it eventually become the cosmic egg? Yeah, I mean, I'm down. I'm with that theory. Obviously, it's not something that we can prove, like we can prove water level. I like the idea of the egg and the yolk, and that if you boiled the egg, you would slice it through and find a yellow section, and perhaps we live on the yolk through the section of the egg, a hardened section of the egg. And coming back to the comment earlier on about the nature of the material world, I mean, my view is that in our experience, although everything that we conceive to be matter, gas, liquid, solid, or plasma, is nothing more than an electromagnetic activity, and it's all waveform. But in our material sense of things, then it's harder down below, thinner and cooler, harder and hotter, thinner and cooler, until we get to extremities where the hardness is such that we can't penetrate it, and the coldness is such that even the gases become solid again, creating this sort of eggshell that reality. So anyway, that was my kind of grist for the mill conversation that I wanted to have this morning. I haven't even had a coffee yet, so that was just right off the gotten out of bed. I wanted to say this to you guys, that as I say, I think that if we live on if the formula that they give us is correct, I'm not going to do that. Right. Then we should probably be seeing a lot more curvature in the first mile than 8 inches. So I was wondering whether someone didn't have AutoCAD and they could, they're handy with it, and they could try and describe an entire circle of 24,000 miles and say, well, what is the mean, the average amount of drop away from the perpendicular? Now, obviously, it's going to increase the amount of drop away from the perpendicular. But it's this idea that it's so exponential, and that it's not like an equal amount always. Let's not get into oblate spheroids. Let's just stick with a blue marble, and that for every mile or every 10 miles, or every 100 miles I move around that, I'm always going to be dropping down by the same amount. It's not going to be coming like an exponentially greater and greater amount of drop off. Yes, I'm going to get to the side of the ball and underneath it and so on, and the propensity to fall off is obviously greater, but the amount that I'm turning, the amount that I'm going round, is described as the same amount. Does that make sense to you? And in this case, should we be rethinking that, and should the ball proponents be put to task to say, our friends that are ball proponents, and say, the maths, because it's funny, isn't it? It's like we've been given the 8 inches per mile squared. Guys who want to stick with the NASA version of the world want to say that the 8 inches per mile squared. Well, it's almost like it became a flat Earth mantra, 8 inches per mile squared, and something that we stand to defend. But that may actually be incorrect, and it may be, as I say, much worse, much more exaggerated, the amount of curve, and that the amount of curve should just be the same amount. It shouldn't be getting more. It's just the same amount of curve. If every dot on this golf ball has the same amount of curve as the one before, yes, this one here, this dot here, is hundreds of feet or meters or whatever on a globe higher or than this one, but it's still exactly the same amount of roundness. It's not an increasing amount of roundness. As I said earlier, a 99th mile is 6,534 feet from here, but the 100th mile is 6,666 feet, which is over 100 feet of. So it's extremely much more bend for that mile than it was for this mile and this mile and this mile. That's not working for me anymore, guys. Maybe I'm missing something. By all means, make me a video, or to help me understand this better. But I've got a feeling that we might have been fed this 8 inches per mile squared. We've all jumped on the 8 inches per mile squared, and we defend it. Other guys who want to stick to the ball, they some will feel that they will defend it, but others don't even need to. But the point is that if it's not accurate, it means that the first mile has got more than 8 inches. It means that the 10th mile might have more than 60 feet to make this work. It might be like they've pushed the math so far down the line that where it's 6,000 feet, it's too far away for us to ever see. But it might be that it's meant to be tens of feet per mile, and it's not per mile squared. It's just simply that for every mile you move away from the observer, you drop 10 feet. And that by the time you've done 20,000, miles, 24,000 miles, you've done enough. So it's almost like you could take the circumference, and divide it by the total radius. Maybe I'll think about this while I'm working today. I'll think about this a little bit more, and please do yourself give it some thought if you so inclined, and write in the comments section, or make a video or whatever, just showing where the maths is right or wrong. But I mean, imagine if it did work out that the 8 inches per mile squared was way off, and it meant that yes, we should we should actually be seeing 10 feet at a mile. It makes everything. It makes a mockery of everything, and it's so much more obvious because 8 inches, people, even at 3-4 miles, oh well, it's only like whatever feet, and of course we can, they can say that's how much of the bottom of the ship you lose after X miles and so on and so on. But imagine if it was 15 feet after 5 miles. We could, that would be a bit of a game changer, right? Anyway, I've kind of, hi Gracie, nice to see you. Zal, hi. Simon Dan, no, Ed Obscene, yeah. I did, I've had Simon Dan reply to a comment. I've only watched 1 or 2 videos of his, and probably not all the way through because it's hard to watch content, I'll be honest. But I have commented at least once that I remember, and he replied quite quickly. I also think that the invitation that I put onto his comment section of his most recent video, I did it a few days ago, and when I did it, after I did it, I think as a consequence of doing that, I got a few of his fellows come onto the channel here, my channel, and say some stuff before I block them. And so I'm fairly sure that my invitation is visible to him. I guess I'm saying that because I people might say, well, he may not know that why would he know that you've called him for a meeting? But I think that he should know, and certainly of his supporters know. And the only reason these people who I'd never seen comment on my channel before would have come along would have been because they've heard of the invitation, and I would suggest that they've heard of it because they saw it on his comment section. So I've got a feeling that Simon Dan, and it's not to be unexpected, is probably going to avoid me or avoid responding to me. As I said, he has written he's replied to me in the comment section of his comments before, and I've only once, I think, commented on his channel, and I was not rude, so it's unlikely that I'll be blocked on his channel, although maybe lately I have. I should get my glasses down. Hey, Andrea, nice to see you here. Good day, hope you're well, mate. I had chat room. Yeah, I do hope you're all well. Where are we today? It's what's it, 7th of February, something like that. We got a few more weeks here actually at this place. After that, I'm not sure where we are. This place we're staying at very, very kindly gave us, and this was through a contact who made contact with someone else who, very kindly spoke to a friend who runs this place, and they just happen to have no bookings here for the month of February. So it meant that, well, in exchange for some work, I was able to stay here. So that's that. You're getting dizzy with the numbers. Hi, striking. Maybe you can do some work on this. The 8 inches per mile squared is a linear drop, as opposed to the Earth being around in the calculator. Right. Yeah, I think I understand what you mean, because this is what we typically see, isn't it? It's like, you know, the distance between my pen is getting greater the further away you go from the start point. I get that, and maybe that's how the 8 inches works. But you know in reality, the pen is twisting an equal amount always as it goes around, and so it shouldn't be the case that, as I did with, you may have missed, I don't know if you've been here the whole time, Keith, but this is the example. You've got 100 miles from this beach to this beach, which is 6,000 feet of curve drop on the globe. And this is, aside from the fact that this is 1,000 meters above sea level, 1,000 meters above sea level. So just accounting for curvature, this person here walks 33 miles to the coast, and encounters 700 feet of curve. This person here, according to the maths, walks 67 miles and encounters 2,990 feet of curve. So the sum of that is 3,700 feet, which is not 6,600 feet. So it's a very subjective formula, and that doesn't match with reality, because just in this tiny example of 100 miles, there's meant to be 6,000 feet of curvature. So you can't see that. There's meant to be 6,000 feet of curvature, not 3,700 feet, as would be described by this person and this person, if they had to say, aside from the 1,000 meters, I encountered curvature 700 feet and curvature 2,900 feet. So it's a subjective formula, and it shouldn't be subjective. It should be objectively. You live on a ball, and no matter how far you go, you're always going to get the same amount of curve. It shouldn't vary depending on the viewer. It should be the same amount of curve. I hope that makes sense. And I've invited people to kind of do me a video. I'm not looking to be contentious with the flat Earth community. But I am calling this formula out to say, hey, are we sure that it's only 8 inches in the first mile? Because that is a very subjective view of things. A ball doesn't become more, this ball isn't going to get more and more curvy, more and more bendy, more and more bend the further I get away from the start point. It's always going to be bending at the same amount. It's an even amount of curvature. So the reason why I think it matters is because, one, we do want to be able to call the heliocentric model to account, and I think that if it's true, what I'm thinking, then the first few miles are going to have a lot more curvature in them than we've ever asked the ball to demonstrate. And so the Bedford levels, for example, as an experiment, might need to be rethought. So yeah, I mean, if you're really good with AutoCAD or something, maybe you can help me out with this. Because I accept as a linear thing that the first mile and the 10th mile will have a different amount of drop. But again, I'm thinking that it shouldn't be dropping exponentially. As I said earlier on, I think you would have missed it then, Keith, but the 99th mile has got 6,530 feet of curvature drop, according to this model. And the 100th mile, the next mile, has got 6,666 feet, which is 130 feet. So, that's, in 1 mile to drop 130 feet versus in the first mile to drop only 8 inches. Do you see how that's actually like that doesn't make any sense, because we know that, that doesn't make sense anymore right now to me. So please correct me where I'm wrong. No, okay, Keith, I saw your comment there. I think the first few miles do not account for observer height. I'm not. You see, the observer height is a what's the word for it? It's the observer height thing is they've included, and that guy, was his name, the guy who came up with the ball calculator. His name, he was badly debunked. I forget his name now. But there was a guy who came up with this the ball calculator and the observer height and so on. I'm not. It's not about the observer height. It's about how the ball is shaped. The observer may be able to. We know that the higher you are, the further you can see. And one could argue then, the further you can see around, around this ball, the taller you are above it. Okay. But that's not what we should be focusing on. I think they've used observer height. And I hear this, every one of us, we're doing our experiments. Oh, the observer height. It's got nothing to do with the observer height. The ball is curving no matter how you look at it. You can go 1,000,000 miles above this. You could go, as they do with Himawari, or we're 1,000,000 miles away. It's not going to affect the amount that the ball curves. The ball is going to curve the same amount, whether I'm an ant on the surface or I'm the Himawari. It's curving exactly the same amount. And they've used, I'm 4 feet, I'm 6 feet, I'm 100 feet. They've used that as a way of obfuscating the truth. That is that this is a fixed sphere. The amount that it curves cannot be altered by my perspective on it. It curves and it curves. It's a 24,900 mile circumference, 4,000 mile radius. It curves at exactly the same amount, whether I'm an ant or I'm a 6 foot tall man. So the observer height should not be, I accept angular resolution. And so observer height means that you can see further or less far. Put your head on the ground, not far at all. But it's not to do with that. We should not be allowing the observer height to be a factor in the curvature of the globe. I can't alter the curvature of this ball by throwing it further away from me. My dog needs a pee. Excuse me a second. Yeah. So great point there, Keith. But Mr. Astro. But this is where I think we're being sort of still being dictated to by the deceivers and the misleaders. Observer height does not alter the amount that this ball will curve, and they keep trying to say, "Oh, you were too high. That's why you." No. Yeah, I can see further the higher I go. I go to a 10-story building, a 20-story building, a 30,000 feet airplane, and I can see a very long way. And I'd accept that in either model, flat or round, or sphere, I should say. But I don't accept that the observer affects the curve. The observer has nothing to do with the amount that this curve, and the formula is a reflection of the curvature, not not the distance that I can see. The distance that I can see has got nothing to do with the curve. And that's what I'm interested in, is how much is this thing curving, apparently. And observer height is not a factor. Observer height affects the distance that one can see. If I'm 10 miles away from you, over a body of water, the amount of curve drop between you and I will have nothing to do with whether I'm standing on the beach, on my knees, in the water. Yes, I won't see far with my head bobbing just above the water level. I won't see far at all. And if I go back onto the cliff, yes, I might be able to see you at 10 miles away, because I can negate those factors of occlusion caused by angular resolution, or in theory, if I can kind of leave this ball and see more of it around me. I get that, but the fact is that I'm having to look further and further down anyway. I'm not altering the formula. I'm not altering the amount of curvature because I go up higher. So yeah, but thanks for raising that, because I'm glad I was able to state it so vociferously. Is Mark of Melbourne here? My friend, I saw you dropped a video, and I thought, oh, am I going to watch this video, or am I going to make a video? And I'll watch your video later on, my friend. So thanks for that. That's my dog again. She's now finished. Foot soldier high. It's not curving, it's flat. Yes, we know that, but it's just, the point is, you've come late to the conversation. The point is that the maths of the 8 inches per mile squared, I'm calling that out, and you'll need to maybe rewind this video and go and see it, see what I'm talking about. But the main point is that the first mile may be much more than 8 inches, because the 99th mile, according to their maths, is 6,534 feet. And the 100th mile is 6,666 feet, meaning that from the point of the observer, the 99th mile to the 100th mile drops 130 feet. That doesn't describe a ball. That describes like something that's getting sharper and sharper. One second. Yeah, that's the thing, is that it should be, what I'm saying is that if you have a perfect sphere like this, then the amount that it's dropping per distance away from me is always going to be, should always be the same. And again, as Keith said just now, it's something to do with, as you get away from this point, the distance is is greater, and I accept that. I accept that the distance is, of course, greater from this point. But what I'm suggesting is that it's this exponential, this miles squared thing that I think might be wrong. That I think it should be the same amount of drop per mile away from you. Hi, morning. Anyway, I've got, it's 8 o'clock and I want to get cracking on with work. Hey Joe Mama, if the circumference is different at every latitude, why would the curvature formula work no matter where you are? Yeah, it makes no sense. Agreed. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll have to think about that a little bit more. I think what it is, what we're saying is that there should be an equivalent amount or an equal amount of sphericity, of droppedness, no matter which direction you face. I'm allowing for it not to be oblate. So I don't want to get into any of that kind of additional obfuscation. I just want to keep it simple and say, it's simply speaking, we're given this 8 inches per mile squared, meaning that the first mile is 8 inches, and the 100th mile, or is between the 99th and the 100th mile. That mile is 130 feet or something of drop, which doesn't make sense to me anymore. And the key to this, the reason why I think it matters, is because the first mile might be much more than 8 inches on this 24,000 mile ball. It might be much more than 8 inches. The 10th mile in the Bedford levels might be much more than 60 feet. And so all of this becomes, yeah.
It's
three flames. All of this becomes relevant because in our local world, we might be able to say, hey, there's a lot more curvature than just 8 inches in that first mile. It might mean that the example of the Olympic-sized swimming pool, the 50-meter swimming pool, there should be much more than just a few millimeters of curvature, which is a video I did a long while ago about how much curvature you should have on an Olympic swimming pool. So it becomes far more local, far more interesting at the local level, and it all stems from this that the person who only works, if this is 100 miles from here to here, this is 100 miles in 66,000 feet, but this person here walks 66 miles, and this person here walks 4 miles or whatever. They're only going to encounter 700 feet, and they're going to encounter 2,900 feet of curvature on the globe. Which sums up, totals 3,700 feet, which is a lot less than the 6,600 feet that they tell us there is. So it starts to kind of cause the maths or the model maths to break down. And again, we were given this 8 inches per mile squared back in 2015, and we all adopted it, and I've banged it out as much as anybody else in terms of it being inconsistent with our reality. However, as I say, I think I'm summarizing to say that I think it might be more than that at the local level, and it may not be a miles squared thing. So I need to keep it. I need to keep it short, guys, because I have to go and do work, and I'm really grateful that you've stopped by. If I haven't said hello. Hello. I'd like to turn the camera around, but Andrew's breastfeeding, so I'm not going to give you that pleasure. Let's see what Joe said. I've always believed that the Vatican gave Copernicus the answer they needed before anything else happened, and then told him to figure out the math that makes it work. We're on the same page there, bro. I am. I do not subscribe to the idea that these geniuses were working on their own. and just came up with this stuff. And the Vatican, didn't want them to publish their work because it flew in the face of God. No. Or in the face of the biblical no. Or the Genesis story. No, I don't think that at all. I think that, the Vatican has authored all of it, which is why they are behind the Big Bang. What's his name? Having a Lemaitre, George Lemaitre, right? The Vatican priest he comes up with. The Vatican are the biggest spenders of Lucifer telescopes and all this, and the Vatican, people say, oh, but Newton, was it Newton or one of them was banished by the Vatican? No. Again, this is just fodder to kind of make the religious order seem like they didn't want for science to overwrite their religion. I could never understand as a child, I'd be like, why school? As though you've heard me say probably before, I'd read Flat Earth in the Bible as a youngster before I was well into my teens. So I could never understand how my church was sitting comfortably with a science at school that was kind of completely flying in the face of what we were learning on a Sunday. And now I know, because they're actually all in the same club, and scientists and the religious leadership are really owned by the same entity. So yeah, same page, right? Anyway, I hope I've thanks, Ricardo. I hope I've covered that, and I will want to talk about this more. And one day I'm going to get a laptop, and we're going to get a laptop, and I will then get the software that will mean I can do like Hangouts and invite some of you good people along to conversations. And I was having a conversation, in fact, with someone the other day where he was suggesting I need to start doing interviews with people. And I really would love to do that, actually, to start doing kind of interviewing people. Just to kind of, just to be another place where people can kind of come and talk and so on. I think I'd be pretty good at that. But I just need to get the hardware and the software in order to make that next stage happen. Anyway, I'll keep it short, and it's Thursday today. So
it's Thursday, 6th of February.
6th of February. Okay, I got that wrong earlier. Sorry about that. 6th of February. I thought it was the 8th.
No, that's the weekend. New moon.
New moon.
New moon Leo.
New moon in Leo this weekend.
Yeah.
And yesterday was Mars something. You said something about, because I was like pretty feisty yesterday.
Yeah, there's a few interesting energetic alignments going on. So if anybody's feeling the feels, let it flow. It's all good.
Yeah, let it feel. Let it be. Let it be. See you guys, and have a great day, great weekend, and thank you, Andrea. I'd be a good, the Vatican needs a flesh-eating virus to go through. You can go and have a look at what, well, hey, buddy. We'll get back to that. All right. Well, I'm going to say goodbye for now, and we will talk again very, very soon. So have a super day. Be well, and just be, for me anyway,
focus on the love. Focus on
the love. Trying to find that happiness.
Yeah, because it's the high vibing that we need to all be striving for. It doesn't mean you ignore the bad stuff, because you've got to go through it, but
I know. I was saying earlier on, as I said to you yesterday, how I used to be like just a happy guy, and life has, a lot of that happiness has been, and it shouldn't be, because knowing what we know, knowing about our divinity, well, we don't necessarily all agree on that point, but for me anyway, knowing that I'm connected to the divine, and that this is some sort of never-ending eternal story that we're part of, and that in essence none of this should really matter, because when we return to the Most High, to our point of creation, and then it's all love anyway. So, and
gotta climb the mountain,
the speed of change, and the speed of change may not be as quick as our human desires would prefer. But I think we need to go through this in a happy, loving way, and
no, I disagree. I think you've got to have the spectrum of feelings, but you've got to have the spectrum of feelings and the balance. But it's a good thing to want to feel the happy feelings too, because it means that we're coming out of a period of feeling of feeling some of the, or having to face some of the darker times, and hopefully we've got some lighter times ahead. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Because we've kind of come out of the sort of harder times of the winter, although saying that we could still have some really cold weather. But
I hope you can hear.
Yeah, I think you should just go and share some love. Go and share some love.
Have a lovely day or evening or whatever it is, and yeah, it may be more than 8 inches in the first mile. I think this is where I'm going to be trying to put my effort.
Daddy, what happened to your fire?
My fire's going out, guys. My fire's going out. I need to get onto it. Have a super day.